Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another segment of It's Getting Real. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we begin. So it's Mother's Day in St. John's, Florida. The Baileys are supposed to be waiting in their room for their children to let them know that it's okay to come out for their Mother's Day breakfast. It's 9 a.m. Sophia is in the kitchen making breakfast, and her mother comes out and sees this and wonders where their other daughter is because she should be in that kitchen too. So she tells her son, hey, go wake up your sister and tell her to come down here and help Sophia. So he goes to her room to wake her up, and he discovers that his sister, Tristan, isn't there. He comes back to his mother, Stacy, and lets her know. Instantly, panic set in because Stacy knew that something wasn't right. So they search all over the home, they look outside, and they can't find her. And Stacy decides that she needs to call 911 to report her daughter missing. When I say that this case moved quickly, I mean that it moved quickly, all right? So it's 10 a.m. Stacy speaks with 911. According to the dispatcher, you can hear the distress in her voice. Stacy requests for an officer to come to their house to help assist in locating her missing daughter, Tristan Bailey. She's described to the dispatcher as a 13-year-old female between 5'3" and 5'4", weighing in at 130 pounds. Stacy said Tristan was last seen around midnight preparing to go to bed, making her last words to her father that she loved him and good night. To her knowledge, Tristan had not snuck out of the house. After that, she later learned that she was wrong. But neither Tristan nor her cell phone was in the bedroom. They called and it went straight to voicemail. They tried checking her location via Snapchat, but it wasn't on. Then they tried to use the app, the 360 app, to locate her, and that was turned off. The dispatcher asked Stacy to search the house room by room while they were on the phone with her, but they had already done that. Stacy said Tristan didn't seem upset before going to bed, but she's noticed that her daughter has been a little standoffish and that she goes to her room a lot. Something that's not uncommon with teens. I mean, my teen isn't standoffish, but he does have moments where he just wants to be to himself. So I can see like, okay, yeah, maybe a cause for concern depending on how long that lasts, but it wasn't anything that was out of the, ordinary. Like kids they have moods. So she said, that part of her, being a little standoffish, it wasn't like her. And that Tristan, never said anything about run away or to leave or to harm herself. The only thing that she ever said was that she felt like she didn't do a lot of things right, which lets you know that, something about this just wasn't right. So Tristan Bailey was born in Singapore on January 18th, 2008 to Forrest and Stacy Bailey. She was the youngest of 5 children. Her family, which you can see in the thumbnail, was known as the Bailey 7, and they were a very tight-knit family. Tristan spent her first 4 years of life in Singapore. Family and friends describe her as energetic young girl who always stood up for her friends. Her father added she was vibrant, outgoing, bubbly, everyone's friend, a bundle of energy and love. Both a phenomenal student and a cheerleader with desires to later become a doctor. Her mother said she was just a powerful child that was able to give a lot to so many. She grew up and lived in St. John's County, Florida. At the time of the disappearance, she was in the 7th grade at Patriot Oaks Academy, where she stood out as a popular student. After hearing all of this, the detectives decided to list her as a missing child rather than a runaway. One thing that I respect about this case is that they treated it seriously from the moment that the call was made. A lot of times with these type of cases, they try to tell you need to wait a certain amount of time before the child is missing, or they label the child automatically as a runaway and all those other things. But that is not what happened here. We see sometimes where law enforcement drops the ball by not taking things seriously, but they took this seriously. The hopes were that she wasn't missing, that, maybe she was lost or something along those lines. The family tells detectives that the night before her disappearance, she had dinner with the family. She came home and then she went to bed. But unbeknownst to her family, she left the house to meet up with a friend by the name of Trey. And he had another friend at the home by the name of Aiden Fucci. So at this point, police don't know where she is. The detectives on this case didn't waste any time to get to work. So it's Mother's Day and police are questioning people. Neighbors are searching. Helicopters are even being utilized in the air to see if they can locate her. Maybe she's injured, as I said, or lost or something like that. They just don't know. So they're hoping that, you know, having aerial view would help the situation. A neighbor by the name of Daniel, who knew that people were looking for her, decided that he would look for her while out on his run. His wife suggested that, you know, he look at the end of the cul-de-sac in the woods to see if he could find anything, because she knew a lot of kids would go out there to hang out. So around 6 p.m. on May 9th, upon reaching near the pond, he found the deceased body of a girl. He immediately calls 911 and tells them about his discovery. Law enforcement arrives. The girl is pronounced deceased by Deputy Robert at around 6:15 p.m. And then at 8 p.m., it is confirmed that the young girl that was located was Tristan Bailey. Her body was discovered on the same day that her family realized that she disappeared. Upon looking at her body, they realized after an autopsy that she received 114 stab wounds. Keep that in mind as we go throughout this case. 114 stab wounds, 49 which they're saying were defensive. And as I heard this, I'm like, the baby, this baby fought for her life. The horror she must have felt in that moment when he attacked her. The judge would later read that she had 35 wounds to the hand and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds, making this attack vicious. Tristan was found laying on her right side. She was wearing a black Victoria's Secret shirt with the word pink on the front of it, black Nike brand sweatpants, and some white slip-on Vans shoes. Her hair appeared to be red in color and matted because of the amount of blood that was covering it. I'm being graphic here, I know, but her story needs to be heard, and we have to get an understanding of what's happening here, because this young man at some point can re-enter our community, but we'll get to it. This was a teen who decided to sneak out one night, and it cost her her life. Tristan had multiple sharp force injury wounds on her hands, arms, and neck and back, as I said earlier. She also had several holes in her shirt that were visible, but at first they did not see a weapon. Crime scene technician Marilyn Butts located a gold tone ring, a cell phone that was later identified as Tristan's, a $20 bill, and a vape device. Now, we don't know whether or not the device was hers. It really doesn't matter, but I'm just saying what they found. Technicians also located a possible shoe impression within the wooded area, as well as a Powerade bottle near the pond. The cell phone, after processing the scene, was later transferred to Detective David Causey with digital forensics to be processed. Police began their investigation the moment that they received that 911 call. They began speaking with the last person that they knew she was with, Trey. So Deputy Robert Malone and Deputy Liam Stack interviewed Trey. He said his friend Aiden, that he had known for a little over a year, came to his house around 8. He asked Trey to call Tristan over to come and hang out. According to teachers, Tristan and Aiden had one class together, but they did not interact with each other in that class. They didn't even speak. So he didn't have any of Tristan's information, but he knew that Trey hung out with Tristan. So Trey did what a friend would do, and he called and asked her to come over. So she snuck out the house and came over sometime after 12, making sure to avoid the security cameras at their house because she'd hung out there before, so she knew what to do. They hung out for a little, then Trey got tired and Tristan and Aiden left the house together. And that is the last that Aiden saw of her. Trey let the detectives know that he called Aiden that morning to ask him what had happened last night. And he said he dropped her off and went home, which we know is a lie. So he told him that the cops just questioned him and that, you know, they're probably going to be on their way to talk to him. He said that he could tell that Aiden looked a little panicked in hearing this. So the detectives arrive at Aiden's home, and with the consent of his mother, Crystal Smith, they ask Aiden some questions. So a detective, Maloney, interviews Aiden at his home. Aiden said that after he and Tristan left from Trey's house, they walked to North Durbin Parkway, and Tristan then turned to go to her home, meaning they went in opposite directions. What he didn't know at the time was that there was surveillance from other neighbors that had shown him and Tristan walking alone together in another direction. Then later on, it showed him running with his shoes in his hand without her. So after the first round of questions, Aiden is put in the cop car. Police then go to Trey's and put him in the cop car. So they're in the cop car together. And you think that this move alone, the fact that the both of you are in the back seat of a cop car, that these young men would see the seriousness of the situation. Now, Trey claimed to be upset, whereas Aiden doesn't seem to be taking it seriously at all. He is captured on surveillance camera that is in the cop car in the back seat, and he decides to take pictures holding up the peace sign. Things of that nature. Like, this is not a big deal. He's on Snapchat making snaps about the situation, putting it on Snapchat with a caption that says, "Hey guys, has anybody seen Tristan lately?" In a video, he said, "They put us in a effing cop car cuz they tripping, dude." But were they really tripping, as he said? We're having fun in an effing cop car. He just kept talking. I'm saying effing, but he said the word. Keep in mind, this boy is like 13 years old. 13, 14. Can't remember his exact age at the time. The point is, you're young. This is how you're talking. You're glorifying the fact that you're in this cop car, even though this young lady is missing. Trey said he didn't know anything, but people were commenting back on the snaps that they were making that you all know something. Meanwhile, Aiden is talking about how fun it would be if they ended up in the same prison. Who thinks like that? If you put me in a cop car and I know I didn't commit a crime, I would not be sitting there talking about how fun it would be to, you know, go to the same prison. I'd be freaking out because here I am being falsely accused of something that I didn't do. The fact that he said that shows just how cold this boy is. So his phone gets taken away from him. And once again, it's caught on camera of him talking and texting on the iPhone to Siri. "Hey, Siri, text Dream Girl. Hey, Siri, text Dream Girl to stick with me through this. Hey, Siri, text Dream Girl that. Hey, Siri, text Dream Girl that the cops took my phone so I can't see what she's saying." This is what he's saying on the recording because he's trying to get his girlfriend, that's Dream Girl, to hear what's going on. Aiden and them now are back at the station. Aiden is placed in the second interview room, which was both audio and video recorded. Aiden's father, Jason, and mother, Crystal Smith, were present at some point in the room with Aiden because Aiden was not willing to answer any questions after a certain point. While inside the interview, both his parents made several comments advising Aiden not to speak about any possible involvement he may have had, and also advised him that the room was probably being recorded. But that didn't stop them from digging their own hole and showing the true nature of their character. So they let him know that they found the girl. They ask him different types of questions like, what type of interaction did you have with her and stuff like that? And he says he kissed her. His dad says, okay, so basically your DNA is on her. His mom starts asking him, like, why did it take you so long to get home? What did you tell them about that? What was your reasoning for that? And he says, yeah, I told them I walked a long way, yada, yada, yo. He starts talking about how a dealer picked him up. And the mom was like, so the dealer picked her up because he told the police that a dealer had picked her up. All sketchy to me. How did the dealer pick her up, but they didn't see that on her phone? Like, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. So his dad says, it's not smart to leave a 13-year-old girl out there that late, Aiden. Why were you out that late is my question. But he's talking about 13-year-old girl being out that late. He then says to him, why were your shoes off? Because they saw it on the surveillance camera that they had set up in their home. And understand, that camera comes into play yet again later on. So he says, my shoes were off because they were hurting my feet and they gave me blisters, so I had to take them off. They asked him about, his shirt and why it was damp. He said he spilled something on himself. His mother says, we're going to go home and get your clothes. He says, what clothes? She says, the clothes you were wearing. His dad says, there ain't nothing on those clothes, right? He says, no, sir. I can't see myself asking these questions. They had to have known something wasn't right. So his mom says, did you wear the khakis or the blue jeans? Why was that something that you needed to know? Unless you knew something. He tells her blue jeans. Clearly says blue jeans. It even says it across the screen. These people are dumb. The recording is going. The tape is running. She says, you sure there's nothing on those pants? He wants to know why she's so concerned about those pants. And it's because she knows that they're going to want to process it. She knows there's something on those pants. That's not a question parents ask if their kid is innocent. If their kid is innocent, they're willing to do anything and everything to prove their innocence. She said, when we looked on the camera, you were wearing khakis, right? Basically trying to switch it up. The police already saw that he was wearing jeans in multiple surveillance videos. So you sitting there saying he was wearing khakis doesn't matter. They know he was wearing jeans. There she is trying to cover up evidence. His dad says, you better find your story and stick to it. His mom adds, they're not going to like that you keep switching back and forth. Parents like these need to be incarcerated because you're basically trying to find a way to get him out of this situation when at this point they know that Tristan is gone and their son may have something to do with it. If he's not guilty, he doesn't need to tell a story. All he has to do is tell the truth. Now, yes, sometimes things may be added when you recall some things. You may forget to say something and then you may remember. That's fine. But to completely switch things up and you're telling him to get his story straight, it shouldn't be a story. So Aiden lets them know the rest of what he told the police. Aiden stated he walked along North Durbin Parkway and arrived home between approximately 3 and 3:30 a.m. He was asked to clarify his timeline since it seemed odd it would take him approximately 2 hours to walk from Trey's house to his house because according to Google Maps, he lived less than 2 miles away from Trey and the walk should have only taken him about 28 minutes. So Aiden changes his story again, stating he and Tristan continued walking north along North Durbin Parkway. Then they got into an altercation after she grabbed his penis. That doesn't sound believable to me, but okay, so she grabbed your penis. Why wouldn't you say that earlier? Why are you just saying that now? Aiden stated he forcefully pushed Tristan to the ground, which caused her to hit her head. Sounds like he's trying to cover up something to me there. He said he wasn't sure if Tristan got up because he was dizzy from smoking marijuana. Yeah, right. His friends describe him later on as a pothead, saying that he's basically a pro. So did marijuana really make you so dizzy that you couldn't turn around and see whether or not this girl was injured? He said he left her and then walked by himself, telling the detectives and his parents that Tristan could be with a drug dealer who was in his 20s that she communicates with through Snapchat, or she could be on a path by North Amity Center known for teenage drug use. First of all, you don't even know her enough to know whether or not she communicated with this guy by Snapchat. And if she did, the police would quickly figure that out. He was just trying to paint a further bad image of her. So around May 10th, police get a search warrant. They go to Aiden's house to look for evidence. In his room, they find a sheath that matched the knife found near Bailey's body and clothing with blood on it. Bloody clothes were found in his room and in the bathroom sink. A knife with a fragment of the tip missing was found near her body. That knife, later founded on that knife, was Aiden's DNA. He was later arrested for second-degree murder, but this charge changed to first-degree murder after further examination of evidence and witness accounts. During a press conference on May 27th, the state attorney said, Aiden told his friends he was going to kill somebody by taking them to the woods and stabbing them. At some point, police talked to his girlfriend, Zophie, as well as others, who says that Aiden felt neglected. She said his dad hit him. Aiden had anger issues and would be violent when he was angry. His best friend described Aiden as a pothead. All Aiden talked about was marijuana, even once beating up a kid for stealing his vape pen. The night of the murder, his best friend said they planned to steal and smoke his dad's weed. So he's been a problem. He told her, his girlfriend, that he heard voices in his head and he used drugs, and he talked about wanting to kill her even at some point, but she didn't take it seriously. Apparently, a lot of people knew that he had violent thoughts. His friends told deputies Aiden talked about death and killing all the time, and he frequently drew pictures of mutilated bodies, but they didn't believe that he would actually kill. His friends said, you don't really take stuff like that seriously coming from a teenager. He said he wanted to slit someone's throat. He said it'd be satisfying. I don't feel like that's conversation that I would think is appropriate for a teenager. I can't remember as a teen having those type of conversations. I would have labeled him as somebody that I didn't want to be around, because that sounds scary to me and like something is wrong with you up here, that you're talking about this like this is just a normal thing. He talked more about fighting people and things of that nature. They've seen him practice stabbing things, making motions with a knife. And, you know, you just really don't think that he's going to stab and kill somebody, his friend said, because he's just a kid. We're all just kids. I'm beginning to learn that kids are not, it just doesn't seem to matter. All of this was put out there, and multiple people told police of these stories, and yet nothing was done. He kept the knife for protection. He always had one or two knives that would be with him when he wasn't in school. He called one picker and the other poker. Aiden told his friend to expect the murder to happen within a month, and it did. Aiden was transferred to Duval County Jail, where he was held without bond. His mother, Crystal Smith, was arrested for tampering with evidence from their own security system. Remember, I told y'all about this earlier. His mother was seen on video in her house taking the jeans that Aiden had worn and washing them because she saw something on it that she thought was blood. And I just, as a parent, as a human being, can't see myself being okay with that. I love my son, but hearing something like that, he wouldn't have gotten my protection. Crystal Smith, at the age of 38, pled no contest to a charge of tampering with evidence, a third-degree felony, which is punishable for up to 5 years in prison. She made a plea, and the judge called her guilty of the offense and sentenced her to 5 years of probation with the condition that she served 30 days in St. Johns County Jail, with the credit for 1 day already served. I think that she should have served the 5 years because she was willing to cover up the fact that her child committed a crime and she knew he did it. Shortly before jury selection, because he did not want to plead guilty, they almost are at jury selection, and he decides to change his plea from not guilty to guilty. He then wrote a letter apologizing for the pain caused by Bailey's family and friends, and it was in a letter to the judge. And I'm going to read it verbatim because I have a copy of it in here. And I'm telling you now, it made me upset because I don't really feel like he's sorry. I feel like he talked more about how this affected his family than he did the actual Baileys. Dear Judge Smith, My name is Aiden Fucci. I am 16 years old. First off, I want to say that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused to the Bailey family. I'm sorry to the friends, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, and any other family relatives. I'm sorry that you didn't get to know her that long. You did not have any long relationships with Tristan, and for that, I'm sorry. For the community, I'm sorry I brought all this pain on everybody, and I'm sorry, and I know my apology will not fix anything or bring her back, but I hope it helped in some way. And for my dad, I'm sorry that he had a bad spot in his work because of me, a bad spat in his work because of me. I miss being outdoors with my dad and brothers. You see what I'm saying? This is back to him. I miss the fun we had, like four-wheeling, paintballing, going on the long car trips. Dad, you made things fun, like the tarp to the four-wheeler so we could slide on the tarp behind. Dad, you're special because you made fun out of nothing. Love you. This is supposed to be a letter to the judge about the crime that you committed. You spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences apologizing to Tristan's family, and all the rest is about your family. To my mom, I want to send my apology. And y'all, he spells apology A-P-A-W-L-O-G-Y. Yeah. As well. I'm sorry that she had to move her house because people were sending threats to the house and my family. It's all about his family. And that my little brother and sister had to change schools because of me. Mom, now I miss your lemon pepper chicken. P-E-P-E-R. I miss your hugs. I miss you. The longer I'm in here, the more I forget, the more memories I lose. I'll never forget you. Love me. He wrote this on Sunday, March 12, 2023. A few days after he killed this girl. You over here talking about missing lemon pepper chicken and four-wheeling and all those other things. Things that you may have a possibility of tasting. Meanwhile, this other person is no longer on this earth because you can't control yourself. His mother, Crystal Smith, who has all the nerve in the world since she also tried to cover up what her son did, wrote to the Bailey family and the judge, I grieve for the devastating loss of Tristan. I grieve for the subsequent arrest of my son, and I grieve for the irreplaceable agony inflicted on the Bailey family. Most of all, however, I grieve for Stacey Bailey as a mother. All sounds like lies to me, in a way to get stuff, going for her son. Judge Smith called this the most difficult and shocking case that he presided over, saying, the court finds that the defendant's participation in this offense was not the result of immaturity. He understood the risk and consequences of his actions. He previously told his girlfriend that he was going to do this. That clearly shows that he'd been planning it. He attempted to cover it up by disposing of the murder weapon and throwing it into the lake. He attempted to conceal evidence by hiding his shoes and shirt and jeans and taking a shower, stealthily entering his home. And then the actions immediately after with the Snapchat videos in the back of the police car and the story that he made up about pushing her and hitting her in the head, which clearly refuted by the video evidence in his case. All of that shows, and this court finds that this was not an immature or impetuous type of crime. It makes it unique. It makes it extraordinary. What is also very troubling is that the crime had no motive. This was not done out of greed. It was not done in retaliation, retribution, or revenge. It was not a crime of passion. It was not a crime committed because he felt rejected by her. It was done in an uncontrollable anger. There was no reason. There was no purpose. It was done for no other reason other than to satisfy this defendant's internal desire to feel what it was like to kill someone. It was committed in cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense for moral or legal justification. And it was heinous, atrocious, and cruel. This factor, and this factor alone, makes this case and this defendant more than just unique. It is for this reason And all of the reasons previously stated, that this leads this court to the conclusion that there is only one appropriate sentence in this case. He was given a maximum sentence of life in prison on March 24th, 2023. At the time of his sentence, he was 16. After 25 years of incarceration, because he is a minor, his case will be reviewed. I personally think that 25 years is too soon, and I don't think it should be reviewed. I think that he very much so knew what he wanted to do. And I feel like because he was plotting on Kristen, and out of all people to call over, you wanted to call her over and then you walked her home too? Yeah. During the impact statements at the trial, one of Tristan's siblings, Alexis, dropped 114 Aquastone hearts into a glass jar, one by one, to represent the stab wounds her sister endured. The jar stayed there for each family member while they read their statements. Each concluded by adding a white stone to represent something related to Tristan's death. The judge said something that I think is worth mentioning. He said this: "My advice to you is simply this. Understand that the healing process takes time. You have to move through the stages, and you have to allow each other to move through the stages at your own pace." As Tristan's parents held each other in the gallery and her mother, Stacy, was crying and trying to hold back their sobs, the judge said, "Comfort each other. But understand some of you may reach different phases on this healing process sooner than others. Allow Tristan's vivacious spirit to live on through you. Allow Bailey's Sunday fun days to return to your home. Allow laughter to return to your home, because in depriving yourself of that, frankly, it would continue to victimize Tristan. It's not what she would want. She would want that happiness and laughter to return, and the joking between her siblings. That's what she would truly want." He also encouraged them not to give to anger. You have to try to let some of the anger that you still feel go. I think that's a big part of this process for you. There is no greater loss, in my opinion, than the loss of your child. Well, I can't say that. I'll say for a parent than the loss of their child, because they only got 13 years with her and her life hadn't even begun. And I'm sure that that poor little girl had all type of, I wish I didn't and I shouldn't have done this, the night that she decided to sneak out and she got attacked. She'd snuck out before. Her friend Trey said that she'd come over there before when other people were over there, and then she would go home. They were friends. He didn't know that Aiden would do this, and she didn't know that Aiden would do it. She didn't even know Aiden. We still don't know exactly what went on that night with the two of them and what caused him, even though he didn't have any reason to attack her, what caused him to attack her. Did he try to make a move on her and she rejected his advances? It just, there's so much that is unknown. Since being incarcerated, reports from the Duval County Jail show that Aiden has been in several fights, one in which he was pepper sprayed by the corrections officers. Reports said he extorted other teen inmates for their commission, threatening to stab them. One report says he threatened to kill the families of jail guards, and an inmate said Aiden boasted that he stabbed a bee face to face rather than simply shoot and kill like the others there. That report alone to me shows that he has no remorse. And in cases like this, in my opinion, and please let me know yours down below, because as I said, I really want to know. In my opinion, in cases like this, they shouldn't be let back out into society, because these are the type of people, children, whatever you want to call him, that will come back out and will commit other crimes. Now, there are some psychologists that stated that they think that he can, be taught things and counseled and all those other things and be released back into society. But I don't believe that. I feel like Aiden is an opportunist. I feel like Aiden is a troublemaker. I feel like if he had been wanting to do this for a long time, that he would come back out and do even more. Look at how he's acting up right now in prison. And he has a life sentence with review in 25 years. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your opinions down below. Until next time.